Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
List of members, this is Mike Falcone.
David Dempsey.
Celine Muldowney.
Mark Sands.
David Broll.
And from the Board of Selectmen, we have,
Alicia Greco.
thank you very much for attending. Reading the previous minutes,
I'm sorry I got them out late. These are from the...
I wasn't here, so I can't say, I didn't see anything that I noticed, and Mariah has responded saying they looked good on her end, but I don't know if anyone's got a chance to look.
I haven't.
Is Mariah not able to attend tonight?
Who?
Mariah?
Yeah, she's got commitments tonight.
Okay.
We're gonna shift it up to Mondays, that's why we're looking at other dates after this.
We can move to approve them at the next meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
It's all right.
This is the rec committee, we just started.
Okay, you're
Yeah.
good, but hi.
All right, so we're gonna table the minutes from March 7th till our next meeting. Ever get a chance to read, we'll go from there, okay? Correspondence, bills, anything we got?
I didn't check.
Okay. Old business. We're gonna start off the top and kind of go out of order so we can get the main point out of the way. So we're gonna start with the fee schedule and the format of the fee change. For all that are attending here tonight, a very quick history lesson. From 2006 to 2018, the Mantor Field scheduling and fee process remain the same. It is a $35 for locals per player and a $50 for the GPS program. And the scheduling and the hours of all the fields were conducted by the lacrosse and the soccer programs from both Triton Youth and from GPS. The Recreation Committee in 2018 started investigating better ways to manage this. We're accountable to the town and the Board of Selectmen to make sure that we are managing this program for all sports that are available. We started looking at other towns to see in the area ranging from Newbury, Amesbury, all the way out to down to Beverly, all along the North Shore. We've discovered that everybody has a per hour program with rates ranging from $10, $15 an hour, $20 an hour for locals to anywhere up to $50 to $100 for a for-profit, which GPS falls into that category. This is one of the big things we have mentioned since the get-go, is we are not in this to be raising rates. We are just looking for better ways to manage the program. And that is what's brought us to this. So in July of 2018, we decided to change the format from a per person to a per hour. Since July, we have been discussing what's the rate to work it out. The last numbers that have been proposed for the Triton Youth lacrosse and soccer is either $5 or $6 an hour, which when if you work out the numbers, it is extremely fair, and it's the way the hours work out. And for GPS, it was either $15 or $20 an hour. Up to that point, that's where we are right now. And we're going to decide tonight one way or the other, since we have a full committee.
We have to wait till tomorrow.
If we're going to do a full committee, then we can be, you never know what could happen.
I'm sorry, GPS stands for what?
Global Premier Soccer.
Global Premier Soccer?
Yeah,
And that's an out-of-town program?
that is an out-of-town program. They have organizations all across Massachusetts. We have discovered that they have paid higher than the fees that we're proposing, substantially higher.
They currently pay higher fees now than you're proposing?
Right now, currently, we are still under the per-player program,
Yeah,
which is $35 for the Triton Youth program, which is soccer and lacrosse.
yeah,
And GPS is paying $50 an hour,
okay,
$50 a person for that.
yeah,
And what we're looking to go to is either 5 or 6 for Triton Youth soccer and lacrosse, and 15 or 20 for GPS.
Yeah, the bottom line was, we discussed, as we brought up, and it's been on public meeting, was to make sure that prices did not go up for the Triton Youth sports.
Or if it did, it's been the same for 12 years, we're talking nominal.
Yeah.
Nothing
yeah.
crazy, because we easily could have gone, like a lot of the towns have gone $10, $15, $20 an hour,
Yeah.
which would have priced a lot of you guys out, and we don't want that.
Just to be clear, you said GPS is paying 50 now?
$50
And now
per
you're
person.
proposing 50, you're proposing 15?
Per hour.
Per hour.
We're changing
Yeah,
the.
we changed the format, we voted on it and we changed
Per
from a
person
per
or per
person
hour.
to a per hour. So that we could have control, I don't know, you said
Manage.
the word, we could manage the fields properly.
Yeah.
If you go by on a Sunday afternoon at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes there's no one there. But in theory, those fields are taken by permit and no one can use them. So,
And we've had other organizations have started a group, for an example, Ultimate Frisbee has asked for three Sundays. Right now, the way it's currently configured, we could not do that. If,
We've also had other groups.
we've had other groups too, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, we've had other groups that want to do a dodgeball or do something. We just wanted to make it available to all groups so everybody has a
Yeah.
chance. We do not want to hurt the lacrosse soccer programs because they've been excellent partners with us for the years.
Right.
We're just trying to better manage the program so it works for everybody. That's what the goal of this is. Actually, I'm gonna say, I apologize. If you've got a statement, just please stand, introduce yourself, because we
Yeah.
are on camera. By the way, all of these meetings, if you want to, go back to YouTube, they have all been available, you can watch it anytime. So there's nothing to hide what we've been saying.
John Vogel, Raleigh resident.
Okay.
So just asking a question, my daughter's in the cross and whatnot.
Mhm.
So for like last year's example, on $35 a player for the season for all of Triton Youth Lacrosse, that cost was X. What does that look like now as you take the same amount of time those teams are using the fields for?
In 1
And
second,
then
I'll tell you exactly what it
putting
is.
that in your new pricing structure to get a real clear apples to apples understanding of
Mhm.
what the change looks like over like an annual use.
Yep.
So part of the motivation for switching to a per hour, because if you charge a child $35 for season, they can use the field for 2 hours for 2,000 hours.
Yep.
And it just, there's just no,
Sure.
that's
No,
basically what has
totally
happened,
get
is that
that,
there's
yeah.
a whole kind of over rental of the fields, and then nobody else can use it. And we've been trying to ask for suggestions and, you know, recommendations, how to make it a little. The other thing is the per player model, in theory, really doesn't work, because you guys are providing us with an invoice instead of us providing, you're telling us how many kids are on the playing. We have no way, and we're not saying that people are being dishonest, but it just kind of, switching to per hour removes that whole kind of question mark.
Sure.
And we can bill you based on the hours that people rent. We've been told that, you know, they do rent more than they need, and that, a lot of that has to do with scheduling. We've asked, you know, how we can improve that process, but we are definitely, we've already voted on switching to a per hour
Sure.
fee structure.
Yeah, no, so I'm just trying.
Just for your information,
Yeah.
based on the last 2 years, not including 19, I don't have 19 sheet in front of me, so I apologize, over 17 and 18.
Okay.
In 17, they had 133 players, and in 2018, they had 112 players. So for 2017, they paid, this is lacrosse only.
Yep.
They paid $4,655. If we were at $5 an hour for that time frame, it would have been $4,510. So it actually would see a savings of $145.
And can you define the time frame?
Their season.
And so how many hours is that defined for?
In 2017, it was 902. In 2018, it was 860.
In 2018, it was 860?
Yes. So they reduced, again, we were not controlling the schedule at that point. So between lacrosse and soccer, the way their hours were signed up, they signed up for 860 hours, so 42 hours less.
Okay.
If I look at 2018, they paid $3,920. At $5 a person would be $4,300 even. At $6 an hour, it would be $5,160. Because what they would have done is they would have said, in 2017, they would have said 133 people times $35 is what you get your $4,650, and 112 times times 35 is
Right.
$39.20.
Yeah.
So there's your hours there.
Yep.
So as by using the $5 or $6, depending on what their hours are, they very easily could manage a little bit less to get the hours, get the same dollar rate. But as you can see, by the $5 or $6 we're choosing to charge, we're right in line. It may be a small amount higher. And again, if you use less hours, a little bit less hours, you're fine.
Well, I think, I wasn't here before, this is my first year on the committee, but I think one of the other discussions that we had was that, and I think you mentioned about overbooking, where there'd be a slot would be booked by somebody and we'd go by and there'd be nobody participating, the field would be empty, but we couldn't rent that to anybody else. By perhaps going to an hourly rate, then you really pay for the hours you're using and you don't overbook, and that frees up some time for other people like the Ultimate Frisbee and other people that really wanna use it, because then you're paying for it by the hour instead of the participants. Because when you pay, if you have 300 participants or 100 participants, it's gonna be the same no matter how much you use of it. So there's a tendency to overbook and say, well, we might need that time, so we're gonna book it. Or we're gonna book this because we might need for schedule changing and things like that. So hopefully this will kind of help everybody to condense their time of the usage of fields, so they really only pay for what they use. That brings their costs down, and it opens and frees the fields up for other use.
We also are very aware, we've been talking to both groups. We understand that scheduling is a concern because of the timing that happens. We've assured both groups on camera that we will certainly work with them. If it means allotting additional hours in the beginning until they have an idea and they decide, okay, pay for half, and then the other half is done, we'll settle up once we figure the hours, we've offered that as a suggestion. So we're certainly trying to work the best way we can with our partners.
Can I have a couple, I'm sorry.
All right. No, because you're a question, so please.
Amanda Cannon, I'm a Byfield resident. So I have 3 kids that do trade youth soccer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's $6 per hour per field
Yes.
that we're using.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was, hold on.
Except for the smaller fields, 5, what they refer to as 5A and 5B, the small ones,
Right,
those are
the ones
halves.
that we use.
So it would be 2.5 or 3, depending on what it is. But that's worked out. We will
That's
be
what I was
charging,
curious.
we'll be invoicing the soccer and lacrosse in the GPS programs. How they charge you at that point is between you and them.
Right, of course, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I was curious about
Yeah.
the smaller fields, they get charged.
They're a half,
That's-
they're a half,
yeah.
yes.
Okay.
If they were using both fields for that one thing, then it would be the 5 and 6.
Right, of course.
But if they were only using one, it would be 2.5 and 3, depending on what we choose tonight.
Right, okay.
So you can see the cost too, if you have 10 kids playing at $5 to use that field is, 50 cents, 75 cents a kid, which is not a killer,
Yeah.
as far as a parent goes, so.
You know, like I said, I'm Mark Sullivan, I'm a neighbor of Mark Sands, Byfield resident. I'm also on the Trade Youth Hockey Board of Directors. My kids don't play lacrosse or soccer, but the vibe that's out there amongst the parents I'm talking to is that they're concerned that these outside programs are gonna come in and take time away from the local kids. I'm not so much concerned about the prices. I'm sure you guys have done your homework, and it's we're at market price or below. I'm fine with that. It's the access to the fields. I just don't want to see our access be circumvented for the use of outside programs in the goal to increase revenue. So
No.
can you talk to
Okay.
that?
Mark, can I just-
I get my own stuff, go ahead.
All right,
Can I just piggyback that statement real quick? And he's like, totally, like, what you're saying is spot on. And just from a Rowley, Byfield, Salisbury, Newbury perspective, these fields are so centrally located, it's really what keeps Triton sports.
We're aware of
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted to highlight that point, like, it's not just
Yeah.
Newbury, it's really
This will be addressed right here.
bringing everyone,
But-
so I just wanted to mention that again.
What, one of the beginning impetus for this whole thing to happen was, we got in front of the selectmen and a town resident and said, we have all these towns out here, and the Newbury residents pay for, out of their taxes, the fields, controlling fields, keeping the fields, watered, cut. And so residents said, and the selectmen said at one point, what we want you guys to do is to have it so that a kid from Newbury could go out and use the field, and right now they can't. And, we've heard from both sides, well, yeah, they can come on because there's always an empty field, but if you're a, 13-year-old kid and you want to go out there and hit a ball around or kick a soccer ball around, you sort of feel intimidated because there's no field that you could use. So our plan, one of the thoughts model to do this is to have a field that's available for Newbury kids to go and kick a ball around on. And, you know,
We've given priority to the town of Newbury,
Sure.
the Triton School District, then the GPS, or the outside company. That's been the priority. We understand, we all have, I mean, I have 5 kids raised through the town that don't play lacrosse or soccer, but I certainly, Celine has, Mark has, we've all gone through it. We're all invested in this, we're all volunteers to do this, and we're trying to do the same thing. We know that the towns are certainly all together, we're trying to work together for this, so. But that is the priority, that where we're technically, because there is a recreation committee for Rowley, there is a recreation committee for Salisbury. We're responsible for Newbury, but where Triton also falls into our jurisdiction, we kind of have to juggle that too. So Newbury gets first choice because it's in, Newbury Byfield is in our town, but then Triton is right behind it.
Well, of course, but geography-wise, you guys are smack in the middle, and it's the perfect. It's almost like the heartbeat.
It's right up the highway,
heartbeat
it
of
makes
Triton
it easier
Sports
for
is right
everybody,
there,
yes.
yeah. So that's why it means so much to everyone around.
Yeah. 1 second, Mark, go ahead.
There's a couple of points I wanted to address, not presented in any particular order. We certainly hear your concern about other non-Triton youth or Triton / Newbury residents using the field. Newburyport itself is having that problem right now, moving from their volunteer payment system to a more structured system, and the fight that they're having with club programs, baseball in particular, taking up more of the field. It's been in the paper, I think last time was last spring. So we're acutely aware of that. The idea, from my perspective, is I'd like to see better numbers. And that means an analysis of what's going on. We're picking out numbers, and we look at the total number of hours used. And one of the problems I have, and I've been crunching these numbers for hours, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, but I could easily chop off almost 20% of everybody's uses in total hours and not make a dent in the availability of the field. And that's, to me, is problematic. If our goal, the rec committee's goal, is to create opportunities for non-structured time for it to be used as a drop-in time, then we need to really think about what we're doing here. Because they could end up renting the time. I'll give you an example. Currently, people are rented from 3 to 8 on a Monday through Friday. Very few people get there by 3 o'clock. Most of the youth programs start there maybe at 4. And we usually stop at 7. And we've taken 2 hours off of every day. That's 10 hours every week for one field. That's 100 hours. So the total hours that are not being used is really misleading and disingenuous. Because, yes, people are not using the fields. We are all negligent in not, the users not informing us when they're not using it, because that's part of the contract, and our fault for not going to them and saying, you need to tell us when you're not using the fields 24 hours in advance. That, what we're proposing isn't addressing that, and I'm sort of off on my own here. I don't know if the per hour is going to solve the problems that you're trying to solve, and I don't think per player is going to solve the problems that is out there. We're in a quagmire. We could put a time, a number of $6 an hour, but if we're taking up the cost of the bathrooms, now that's an additional cost that we have. And I don't know if we've sat down and done a number crunching to see how much we would generate with our proposed fees and what our costs are. And it's really hard for me to sit down and vote on a per hour rate if we haven't looked down at our budget. And I've been asking people about a spending plan based on our own projections of what it's going to be. And it would not be fiscally responsible on our part to pick a number without saying, okay, if we choose, I'm going to arbitrarily choose a number, $20 an hour for, or $7 an hour. Well, what does that mean for our users? If they drop down the hours half, how much revenue do we have? Are we able to replace that? And I don't think so. My looking around at my phone calls to other programs is it's not like a typical free market that people think we are operating under. There's only one Triton soccer program. There's only one Triton lacrosse program. We're not gonna have another town program come in and replace them. So we really need to think
Well,
long and hard.
we don't know that yet because we haven't had the availability yet. Reading today on Facebook with Raleigh Talks, they were making comments because some of the baseball fields aren't available. Not that that's an impact, we can't be playing baseball in these fields, but that may be another opportunity for someone to have something there because fields are getting shut down or different things going on. Right now, for the last 12 years, everybody has realized these fields are booked.
Yeah,
And without that opportunity to see what's there, that's what we need to do.
I think that the town administrator is well aware of the fact that when we have decided to, we voted on this change as per hour versus per player, she did know that there may be a drop down in revenue, and we'll have to accept that. But it's something we're trying to figure out.
I'm not disagreeing with you, there may be a drop through. My concern is, and I began looking at the numbers, are we acutely aware of how much it is? Because if we lose certain programs, or if they reduce their usage significantly, then we won't even have enough revenue that would cover our operating costs. We absorbed new costs when we opened up the building, and we haven't, where we should be spending our time and energy is not looking at the other programs, although we have, but we have an 8-week program during the summer that we're not renting. We have maybe 4% of our appropriations come through the summertime, and we're not even putting any effort into trying to fill that time up to balance out some of it. We're not doing any other programming. We're focused all on redesigning something that right now is not optimal. But if our rates are so high, or so low, if they're so low, they end up booking the whole time. We still don't get what we came in here for.
But I believe that the whole intent of the field house was to create additional programming. So
It
if
is.
you have additional programming, then you're gonna get additional revenue eventually.
Agreed, and we haven't been putting our effort into that.
We
Right.
can't because we
We've been
didn't.
spending so much
Right.
time on this.
On this.
But once this goes to sleep,
Right.
Yeah.
I also, besides that time during the summer, at other times of the year in the spring, when the students are still around and families are still around, do we have the capabilities of increasing our revenue during that time with the way the fields are scheduled now? Or are we locked in the revenue we're in?
When you say locked in through, is it
In
correct?
other words, if during a certain period of time, the fields are fully booked, and as you said, they could eliminate 20% of their usage time, do we have any available time during that time to increase our revenue?
Not really. If we wanted to rent it during the day hours, when kids aren't available.
No, but when they're available, when
When
that's-
kids are available, what I'm
Right.
saying is, one of the programs rents it out, puts it down out of convenience from 3 to 8.
yes,
We know that by the time we drop your kids off in the other part of town and drive them over here, they can't get here till maybe 3:30 at best, and that's a parent rushing it.
okay,
So that extra half hour doesn't matter. That extra hour doesn't matter, because it's not really rentable by anybody other than people maybe on Fatherland. And then you turn around and you look at the back end of it. If you cut it off at 7:30, as opposed to 8 o'clock, nobody else is gonna be able to rent that 7:30 to 8 o'clock slot.
no, but
Right.
The point
right.
being is that there aren't practices, even from 4 to 7, 5 days a week on all the fields.
And we know, as of, you go by
So
on
all we're
Sunday and
asking them
Saturday,
to do-
there were empty fields, so.
1 second, go ahead.
Julie Romano, I'm a Newbury resident. I have 4 children in the district, all 13 and under, so they're at the fields quite frequently, soccer, basketball, and training sports. I have a few different questions actually, and I might be naive, but as we were talking, a few other things have come up, but I don't know if the committee's already addressed it. I have no doubt that you've
go
given
ahead.
a lot of thought into all of this and have put many hours into it, but how is it going to be handled for cancellations, for weather, if we've paid for hours for the kids? Are we able to make up those hours? Are we able to make up games that are rained out, or is that another?
Right now,
additional
it's
hours, or-
being managed between the programs. We haven't come to agreement upon this yet. And part of it is limitations to software systems, to availability. Part of it is just our man hours, because we're 5 people and one unfortunately is not here tonight, 6, of trying to manage all that back end. So yes, that's being taken into consideration. Once we finally pin down the number, then we can sit and say, okay, because part of it is if we go to $5, we're not gonna do cancel. The idea was, it has not been finalized. $5, we wouldn't do cancellations, because we're going the lower number. Or 6 or higher, maybe we do cancellations and build that in, we have to figure out how that piece goes. These are pieces we haven't finalized yet.
And also comparing what other towns' policies are.
Yeah, other town
that are already in
policies,
place.
it rains, you just, you know,
I just, to help, maybe help answer that, I was an athletic director at Triton for several years, and when we rent the field or rent the facility, if it rained or things didn't work out, you know, you just, that was part of the planning and part of what you know, you have to go through. There's very few places, and I've been involved in programs in Lynn and programs in Peabody, where that the youth programs, or if captains practice, or high schools rent the field, or rent an outside basketball court for a summer basketball program, and it rains and no kids show up, there's very few that will give you back, you know, cancellation feedback and let you either increase your hours or have more hours, or use, that's just part of renting the property and renting the facilities.
Thank you, and then the overall sense here, I'm saying, because I was kind of hearing from what you were saying and then what you said is there a shortfall in the budget to manage the fields, or is this simply to increase revenue using them?
There's no thought of, we did not come up with, well, I guess that would be a lie. We looked at this to find out where we were, because things hadn't changed for years and years and years.
Right.
So, our costs have gone up. I mean, we just, you know, our cutting costs have gone up, whatever we do, because prices go up.
Right.
And also we now have a field house, so that's something we have to, but the general thought of everyone was, if we're gonna do this, we don't wanna get to the point where also we're gonna lay this on Triton Youth Soccer or Triton Youth Lacrosse and have them say, we can't afford these fields.
You're putting the bill for this.
Yeah, that was.
We're allotted, correct me if I'm wrong, we're allotted $50,000 in a budget each year. We came on board, 4 of us came on board, David just came on this past year. And the first year, we really got a chance to do anything. We had to complete the field house. Well, that was, based on the RFP process, we got hit with a $29,000 overage that we had to take out of our budget. So you take 50,000, you're down 29, you're down to 21. Our annual expenses are roughly about $8,000, again, before the field house. So now you're down to 13. Then we ran into some other things that came up. Next thing you know, we had no budget. And we were frozen from February, March of last year until July 1. We're not trying to increase revenue to generate on this end. We have ideas that we want to go to town with. We want to build a basketball court so we can improve the outside. Playgrounds. Programs for drama clubs. I mean, building an outdoor ice hockey rink. We're trying to do all these things because we want to have opportunities for everybody in the town.
Yeah,
that's where we should.
Yeah, it's just, unfortunately, we understand the Triton Youth Soccer and Triton Youth Lacrosse, but we also we work for the town of Newbury, or we're volunteers for the town of Newbury, so our #1 goal has to be the town of Newbury, which, as the selectmen will tell you, they put it in front of us that, you know, we want to have hours open for Newbury residents.
Right, and I understand, I'm a Newbury resident.
Yeah.
And that was mentioned at the town meeting last year.
And everybody works for the townspeople too, so
Yeah.
our concern as Newbury residents, as well as all the other Triton youth, is that, you know, we do want it to be maintain an affordability for all residents.
Yeah.
We want the programs to be available for children and students that can't afford that. So if it's operating as such as operating costs are good and all of that, and these ideas sound wonderful. I mean, I'm the community resource liaison for Triton Regional School District,
Good.
so, I mean, the ideas sound wonderful, however, that all comes with a cost. I wanted to last year help raise revenue for our soccer program by utilizing the snack shack or the concession stand, but as I'm to understand that, I mean, there isn't, that's not ready to go yet either, or it wasn't last year.
It
I'm
is.
new to
It
area,
is
so.
on the verge right now, that's
Okay.
one of the things we
I'm
can't
new,
wait to
and
start.
also I should mention too, I'm new here. I came from 14 years up in Maine with kids up there in sport programs. So coming down here was very eye-opening. Sports are extremely expensive down here compared to up in Maine for, programs as well. So we have a lot more kids. So I'm just trying to get an overall sense of where the increase is coming from. If there was a shortfall in the program cost to maintain the fields, all of that, if it's to generate revenue, I know for
I think
also
that there's a
for-
mistake
I'm
that's
sorry,
out there.
Can I just
Yeah,
finish
go
with
ahead.
my thought, thank you. I know that I have, I'm on several different committees and help with fundraising for basketball, for baseball, Triton, Newbury Byfield baseball, I help fundraising for. I've proposed in several different committees that I'm on to use Mantor, to rent Mantor, but it's an arm and a leg. Everyone's like, nope, can't rent there, nope, can't rent there because it's so expensive to rent because of, the
Why
police and all
can't you
that.
rent there?
Because it was so expensive.
Did anybody ever ask us about this? I mean, Grant, we've been doing this for almost 3 years now, so.
Right. No, the feedback I got from other residents, again, I'm new here, but when I proposed, like, how about we rent Mantor Field or look into that? I've been told that it's extremely expensive to rent.
Because it's
different
per player.
organizations, so.
We would have to charge every person that was on the field.
Well,
If
right,
we rented it for a few hours.
So,
Right.
right, without getting into the nitty gritty of all of that, so I was just getting an overall sense of where that was coming from. If it's like, if the money is not there to maintain the fields, if we're trying to increase revenue, or can we do it, like you said, on days that, we don't have, youth sports running there, especially for the students and children? Are there other opportunities, like other organizations that may rent the field?
If, let's just say, the way you talk about that, let's say that, I used to do the Newbury girls softball team.
Mhm.
We had times we couldn't have a place to play. We were playing in, practicing in
Right.
a barn. But we couldn't use Mantor Field. And we are Newbury residents because Triton Youth Sports, the professional, and it's not Newbury. So again, our first objective is to make sure it's available to Newbury people, and then branch out from there.
Can I just address that comment, what you said about, you touched a very important point, and I want to bring up on it, about the town of Newbury exists for its taxpayers. You're very true, it's very true. This committee has not been tasked with generating revenue for a profit. It's not the nature of government. I'm sorry that misinformation went out. There's nothing about what the task of this committee is. You have to remember, it's broader than just Mantor Field. I mean, you guys are all here because it's Mantor Field and it's affected Mantor Field. But this committee's been tasked with a broader vision, with the elderly, with small kids, and Newbury has a vast array of opportunities, and nobody's ever looked at it. So, this whole, as you see, Mike went off in the beginning about the fee structure. It's not to tax Triton youth sports out of the fields for somebody else.
Absolutely, right, and I wasn't insinuating
Right.
you're
No,
trying to
but
make
I-
a profit.
You're looking for information.
Right.
That was it.
There
Let
was
me
a
just
short-
kind of touch,
short
respect.
let me just kind of touch base on it too, is that this is not just about revenue driven. It's about availability. It's about other organizations like your organization that was looking to utilize Mantor Field. And the reason people are saying it might be expensive is because it's always booked. And there's a lot of scheduling that takes place where the fields aren't being used. So by freeing the fields up to some degree, we've been trying to figure out how we can put an ultimate frisbee program that we'd like to do sometimes during the weekends. So by doing these things, we're really kind of limited to a group of people that have tied up the fields over a long period of time for hours when sometimes they can cut back and we can free it up for other reasons. It might not be a good time between 3 and 8 in the afternoon, but on a Saturday or Sunday when the field has been booked and scheduled and no one's showing up, maybe at that point in time we can say, okay, maybe Saturday and Sunday is not a good day to book it and we can free it up for other groups, whether it be Newbury first, but other organizations that might come in and when the field's sitting there idle, but it's been already permitted and rented for that time and not being used, could free it up for other things and other people. So it's not just about being revenue driven, it's really about making it available for everybody, for small talk teams and things like that, or beginning exercise groups, or even walking groups and exercise groups and things for the elderly, and to get elderly outside and just have a place where they can come and walk and things like that. So it's really about looking at the entire town and what's available for recreation in the entire town. We talk about Little League fields over by the library and things like that. So those are other things that are on our plate that we're trying to work with. And so if we have one revenue-driven source right now, all of that's gonna have to help us to kind of fulfill the other things that we'd like to do throughout the city. Like, we'd like to put a winter hockey rink over there, outdoor winter hockey rink, so we can have outdoor skating and things like that in the wintertime, when the fields aren't being used. So, but those are things that we can't do if our revenues are not in the right place.
The big thing we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure everybody has an opportunity. We're trying to make sure that everybody can work together. By making this switch, it's a better management system. So we don't have one group, because to be honest with you, one of my next groups, not to say go after, but to have discussions with, is the baseball program over there. They're on their own island, they've been that way for years. It's just, we need to bring all those pieces in, because if we're responsible, we still have to talk to the school district to talk about the fields behind Newbury Elementary. The baseball fields over there. These are all things that are gonna start most likely falling under our jurisdiction, and we have to have a better idea what's going on. We encourage, urge, pleading with people from those organizations to come sit with us. We want this.
Recommending member? Yeah.
We want you guys here so we can figure this stuff out.
It's Mark Sullivan again.
Yeah.
I'm all in favor of the per hour, that is great. It's easy to manage, it's easy to invoice. Numbers are fine. I just want to be clear that I'm in opposition to anything that reduces the hours for our local town programs. I don't want reduced hours for town lacrosse, town soccer, town anything, in favor of the out-of-town programs. So can you tell me that this summer, this spring, that we'll have the same amount of hours for our town programs, or are they already cut?
Nothing has changed for the spring.
Okay.
This would not start in effect until the fall, the earliest.
Somebody needs to speak to the policy. So there's a policy, this committee has come up with a policy.
That's
The
on the
policy-
website.
The policy states that Triton Youth Sports take precedence over everyone else.
Other than town
So
residents.
that's-
Other than town residents.
Other than,
Town
yeah,
residents.
town residents
There's
may
a
come
priority,
first.
there's a priority.
It's also, I will say, sorry, Mark, the users have also admitted that they overbook the fields because of scheduling. So basically, we're being very flexible to schedule games with other towns, because the other towns say, well, we can only use our fields at this particular time.
Mhm.
So, no, I wanna, we're trying to find a way to kind of rework it. The intention isn't to cut hours for the kids, but at the same time,
Make them accountable.
they are overbooking the fields. So it's not to, if, I'd like to bring in, if another youth sport came in and they were sharing the fields, that's great too.
What if,
I
what
mean,
if,
it's not to
what if
bring
Triton
in
Youth Football
for-profit people
came back?
to get rid of it.
If another program came out, that falls under Triton, you're gonna have to go to right next. Those are, we wanna have opportunities for them too. Newbury, Triton, it's not like we're taking out the other group just to make money, because that would be a money grab, if you wanna look at that.
Yeah.
We wanna make sure that the town and the school are our top two priorities.
I guess what somehow,
One second, actually, yeah, she,
Okay.
Okay, Mark wants to say
Mark,
something.
you're more than welcome to, go for it, Mark, go
No,
for
no,
it.
please.
I'm pretty sure that maybe you're same page on something. So also, my 3 children, Triton Youth Soccer, they have been since they were 3, are also very active in the GPS program. My kids are on GPS teams. I am literally at Manchester Field 5, if not 7 days a week, with games on Saturday, games on Sunday. We go travel, we do all of it. I'm totally for the soccer field. I
you
totally
wanna take
understand that.
residency in the field house?
It is. It'd be a lot easier for me. I'm telling you, exactly. But we are at the field literally every day. Granted, I'm sure the hours are different. We start practice at 4. Most days I'm there until 7. We're hitting our schedules now, and it's crazy. But it's hard to see if, again, I'm not on Triton Youth Soccer Board, but if the fees, like you broke it down for him for the lacrosse,
Do you want the you want the GPS
if I
ones?
could,
Certainly.
because
You have to realize though, for the GPS program,
GPS is totally different. They're their own entity.
Do you want the soccer numbers?
It's just for the Triton youth,
Yeah,
is
I
what
have all
I'm
three
here for,
right
I'm not here for GPS.
Okay, I was just making sure,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
GPS gives us 105 people every year, and they've done it for all seasons that we can date back the last 3, 4 years.
Yeah.
So just give you an idea.
Yeah, they're all,
I think it's
Sure.
more.
Yeah.
yeah, they're,
For the soccer programs, you have to realize, and one thing, in the spring, they split a lot of their hours with lacrosse. So there's a difference there, but I'm gonna do the falls for the next 2 years,
Yep.
for the last 2 years. Again, we're looking at, fall of 18, actually, I've got the last,
fall of 17.
yeah, fall of 17, so. We're looking at fall of 17, they had a total of 700,
It's a lot of fun.
now we're higher. Okay, sorry.
You guys-
The fall of 17, they had 1,040 hours scheduled.
Okay,
They paid for 105 people, they paid to the town $3,675.
for Triton,
Triton Youth Soccer.
okay,
For the fall of 2018, they had 980 hours for 75 people, 75 total players across all the teams, for a total of $2,625. That's their fall.
right,
If you look at their spring, they signed up for 728 hours in the spring of 2017, 16, 17. Spring of 2017, 728 hours. They had 145 people though.
right,
In the spring, so for a total of $5,075. In the spring of 2018, they had 561 hours at 91 people. So their enrollments are going down, but their higher seasons are the springs and not the falls when they have less hours.
right. So then, per
So
hour, what will it?
So if I was looking, and I'll go comparable back and forth. So if I'm looking at fall, so I'm looking at spring of 17, they spent $5,075. At the hour rate, based on the 145 players they had and the hours they selected, at $5 it would have been $3,640, and at 6 it would be $43.68. So both being less
Less
than
than,
they were. Then we went to the the fall of 2017. They spent $3,675. The $5 would have been $5,200, and the 6 would be $62.40. So those numbers would be higher because they went from 145 to 105. So we're down 4 people.
Right.
You drop that revenue off. Spring of 2018, 561 hours. For a total of $31.85 for 91 players. But those, so the fall would have been $2,805 and $33.60, so just below and above.
right,
And this past fall, they had 980 hours for 75 people for the total of $26.25. The 5 and 6 would be $4,900 and $5,800. Substantially higher, but you're talking half the players.
those are,
Yeah.
yeah, those are the numbers,
Yeah.
so it's just hard with certain things, like you said, if, again, I'm not on the board, I'm not saying that they're but if they were to go somewhere else, and then the field to be blank, and not making any,
That'd be
not
our
being able to
responsibility
cover
then to try
that,
to market those to try to get them.
and to get,
Because then we would probably go to a GPS. If there wasn't a youth program that was available, didn't want to do it,
Yeah,
we would then go to GPS
or not a
and-
GPS, but
or-
a GPS type program, there's.
right,
and see if
but
they'd
then
be
that
interested.
brings the Triton youth having to go elsewhere to.
That's
try to-
why we
they-
kept the numbers as low as we have.
I don't
Can I
want,
interject here? There's like 3 or 4 different points here that I don't know if we are able to listen well enough to hear what's going on. To your point, and I don't know if other people understand this. As a Newbury parent, it's really convenient to go up to Manther Field,
exactly.
any part of
That's-
town. Going to the Raleigh Commons in the Raleigh area, not so bad. Going to Salisbury, it's a haul. So some of this is not about Triton,
No.
it's about Newbury
Yeah.
residents. We have an opportunity to keep our families nearby and make it convenient for them. They can drop them off and go. One of the reasons many of these sports programs don't have a large population, on the roster from Salisbury is, it's inconvenient to get down here. So we should keep that in mind. I have a whole list
It's,
of rationale here.
because
that
it's
we're-
also easy for me, because I have multiple kids in the same program, we're all at
So
one
I just
field.
gonna ask you, what's your
I'm-
point? Are you saying that you think that Triton Youth Soccer is gonna,
I
find
just don't-
elsewhere?
No, I don't want the fees to be substantially
the
higher
fees
to
are
where
gonna-
they
The
would
fees are gonna be lower.
on some of the
But-
fields.
So, well,
So
it's because of the volume of people that have, members have been in there.
Right,
Okay.
I mean, you're talking 50%, almost a 50% change in a year and a half.
right. I was just curious to the difference in the numbers and to if they were to have to find somewhere else. I don't know if they are. or
Well, let me
anything like that,
kind
but
of
I
interject a little.
Oh,
First of all,
Dave, no, sorry,
Go ahead,
Mark's
I'm
been
sorry.
going, I think you're gonna be fair.
Mark's saying that.
One of the issues we're, again,
Just stay
I
on
would
top.
love to say we need a good analysis of what's happening here. Even if we drop it down to, say, $6 an hour, that doesn't guarantee us that there will be space available. Because people would, the current programs may end up running it. At the same point, if we go to $10 an hour for the town teams, they may flee. And there's a finite number, and I don't think we get this, a finite number of in-town teams that would be able to play in town.
Okay, Mark, can I
MBGLL
Yeah,
only
but
allows.
can I just address? yeah,
No, 1 second, go ahead.
Mark, let me just say something. What you're saying is that we already know that our rates are lower than most of the towns around.
If not all, if not all.
We've already
I
established, no, let me
disagree.
finish. We've already established that, okay? And we've already established that when you take the spring rate and the fall rate and you put it on the new hourly, one's higher, one's lower, it's almost gonna balance out. So I'm gonna tell you right now, Triton Youth Soccer will not be able to go someplace else and find a cheaper rate, even if we did go to $6.
We go to $10 and they
We
wouldn't
could
do
go
it.
to 10.
That's not the way to do
So if they
things.
tried to go someplace in Salisbury, they'd be looking at 15, okay? If they tried to go to Newburyport, they'd be looking at even higher. If they tried to go somewhere else, it's even higher. Our rates are about as low as you're gonna get, and when was the last time they were increased?
2006.
So 12 years ago. So what can you buy now that you could buy 12 years ago and still pay the same price on? I think the rates are extremely reasonable. I don't think anyone's gonna leave, and I think what's gonna happen is it's gonna balance itself out, because the spring is gonna be higher and the fall is gonna be low. So the price-wise and the overall will balance. I don't think going somewhere else is gonna be a solution, because you're not gonna find
The
rates.
fields are best fields around, they're
And you're not- but you're not-
pristine, they're great
right.
condition.
And you're not
flat.
gonna find a low
And,
rate.
and to be honest with you, that's part of it because of lacrosse and soccer and the work that they've done.
Yeah.
They've been
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
partners in regard to help that out.
They're great fields.
Because
best
again,
around.
if we wanted to make this a money grab or a revenue, we certainly could have and still kept it under.
Yeah.
But we didn't. We were looking at numbers to see what's going on. Yes,
So,
can you please stand it? I apologize. That's
Thank
the
you.
process. We know you are, but you have
I
to.
know. So Jason DeRocha, Triton Youth Soccer. Obviously, I'm here, I can answer any questions that you guys might have all the way through. I know earlier on, I did provide the board with a whole bunch of questions, like the refund policy and all like that, to kind of work it, so both the programs and the hourly rate work together all the way through. Do I disagree with the hourly structure? I don't necessarily. It's easier for a program when we do our, per fee registration, it's easier per player because it's locked in. The hourly makes it hard because you don't know how many teams you're gonna have, and you don't know based on how many teams, you have 4 home games for soccer, you have 2 practices per week, you don't know how many teams, so you can't really, average out, because again, we're a nonprofit all the way through. You mentioned in regards to pricing, and I'll address the email all the way through. The whole email in regards to that went out jointly from lacrosse and soccer was to let our parents know, hey, there's a change.
That's what that was for?
There's a change.
That's
Wait,
one,
Let it finish.
go ahead.
that there's a change, and obviously going from fixed fee to hourly, we don't know if our rates are going to increase, decrease. We're letting you know if it increases or decreases, we'll have to look at alternatives. Does that mean our whole program leaves mandatory? No, but at the end of the day, we're just trying to make it so our expenses per player is, is low. I know lacrosse is at 185 per season, soccer's at 130, but we have 2 seasons as opposed to 1. So we balance everything out, we try to. I know it was mentioned that the last 12 years, there's been no change in fee. Okay, valid factual point. Okay, but if you're looking at the Triton kids for Salisbury, Raleigh, as well as, Newbury, we are, if you look at factual information, in 2007 we have 11%. In 2015 it's at 26.8%. That's the amount of requests for subsidized lunches within Triton. That means more and more parents from 2007 at 11% requested subsidized or reduced or free lunches to 27% in 2015, which is the last documented year. The poverty line's getting bigger within Salisbury, Triton, and Newbury. I don't know the town breakdown, it's just based on Triton. And that ratio was one of the largest in this area. The next largest is Amesbury. Everything else, Beverly, Manchester, Essex, you're talking about 2 to 3%. So with regards to this, are we concerned that our fees are going to increase? We are. Only because we don't want to pass it down to the parents, because we don't want to lose kids that enjoy playing lacrosse, soccer, whatever it might be. So that's where we're saying, okay, we might have to, Salisbury's $10 per player. We might go through and say, okay, first choice is Mantor, but if we break down the numbers, and it's too expensive for our parents, those that are requesting subsidies all the way through, then we might do our practices at Salisbury and our games at Mantor. Just because Mantor's the best fields, no doubt about it. DPW, you guys have done a great job. This past fall, I had 16 parents for soccer request financial aid. I do have the emails here, I don't want to share the names.
How many total?
16.
No, out of how many total participants?
We had 70,
We had 75
Yeah.
in the fall.
we had 75, in the fall it's a little bit greater.
I'm just telling you, that was what's on the form.
We had 2 forms submitted.
I didn't see, I didn't get the second one then. Would have-
So approximately.
Then your numbers that I said before would be a lot higher than what I said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the fall we had 163. We paid $5,705 because we moved all of the kids that do soccer at Pine Grove, except for our intramural program, we moved them all over to Mantor because of the Pine Grove renovation. We didn't want parents and the work trucks going after hours, so we moved everything over. In the spring.
So let me just cut, you're subsidizing 10% of your players, is what you're saying. In that particular season, 16 out of 160 something players is approximately 10%. So the 27% increase at Triton Regional High School or Triton Regional School District for free or reduced lunches is irrelevant when you're only really providing 10% of your players with a subsidized program. Because that's what your numbers say. You said you gave 16 of your families a subsidized participation to play. That's 16 out of 160, that's 10%. So really, that has no impact with the 27% increase at Triton Regional School District. That's your numbers.
Yeah,
So the point, let me finish. The point is that I understand that the poverty level has gone up, and it's for multiple reasons. But also, the fact of the cost of the fields, the maintaining of the fields, the usage of the fields, the improvement of the fields. The fact that you said you could go practice off and go practice somewhere else, I don't think it's, as a coach for many years and an athletic director, I don't think it's wise to bring your players to an inefficient field to practice on just because you're gonna save $3 an hour. So that's a decision that would, I think, be a poor decision of the program to do, because if that's the case, because I don't think you're gonna save that much money from going from $10 to $6. So saving $4 an hour to practice on a field, that's probably at a higher risk because it's not well maintained, it's not well taken care of, and it's probably overused. So that's your decision. But what I'm trying to say to you is that you have to understand that the fees are about an increasing fee so that we can continue to provide you with a great field to have your games in, even if that's all you use it for. If we can't get to that level, those fields are gonna start to look like a lot of the other fields around here where they don't take as well care of them, and they're not in as good a shape as they are. And then you're gonna be sitting here saying, how come the fields are in such shape? Why aren't the fields being cut when they're supposed to be? Why aren't the fields being taken care of? Why isn't that new facility that you built down there being opened and allowed access to us when we're there? And the bottom line is gonna be, because we can't afford to do that. So it's kind of like a trade-off. If you want the good fields in good shape, and you want a good facility with a good concession stand, and you want public bathrooms there that are well taken care of and well maintained, then there has to be a trade-off somewhere along the line that everybody's acceptable with. And I think the difference when we talk about the total cost of how it balances out between the spring and the fall, there's a very minor increase, if any. So if that's what's gonna tell you in your program to take and practice somewhere else, that's a decision you have to make. But we have to look at the overall access, and we have to look at what it's gonna cost to run a facility that all of you wanna be a part of and that are proud of and appreciate coming to all the time. So if you want lesser fields, then you can go somewhere else. But if you want the fields to be maintained and have a facility like you have, then we need to find a way that we can maintain that for you and keep that going. Because those are beautiful fields. I don't care. I've been in athletic programs in Lynn, Peabody, at Triton. I've seen their fields down. Go practice down behind Triton High School after it rains. You're going to need galoshes. So you've got a great opportunity to have a great facility. So there is a compromise. And if the fees haven't increased in 12 years, then there is a time to start to look at how we can better do that.
And I'm curious,
So-
has the Triton Youth Soccer, has their fees gone up in the past 12 years? And you charge the same in 2006 as you do today in Triton Youth Lacrosse too? Is it the same fee?
We were in arrears, so we had to bring ours up. We weren't paying our bills.
Okay, so you needed to increase.
Right.
Okay. How about Triton Youth Soccer?
We brought our fees based upon our league fees going up, but we match what the league fees are
Yeah,
going
so
up.
they have gone up.
The league fees.
Yeah,
But nowhere-
but the cost
I
of the
know.
fields haven't gone up for you guys.
Yep, but again, you guys are saying that the fees that we paid before, changing to hourly isn't supposed to increase the fee, correct?
It
Well,
shouldn't.
you also have to have accountability for your hours.
No, and I know, and the
And I
accountability,
think if you guys do that, a
Yeah.
little bit of planning, and it's gonna be a
Now-
learning curve, it's gonna be a bump in the
Yeah.
road.
yeah, and there's two things I want to mention. One, the 16 families that got subsidized, or the 16 kids that got subsidized, that wasn't covered by Triton. We had to go out to find a donor that would cover
Well,
those
because you're
kids.
a nonprofit, you have
We
to
balance,
do that.
we balance out everything, so I don't want, it to be thought of, oh, we have enough money to subsidize, we don't,
Right,
but we make it a point not to turn away any kids.
right.
In regards to the hours, I understand that, but even for this current year, application for this year was due January 20th. We got our application in January 22nd. We don't know at that point how many kids, we closed registrations on the 15th. So we have a baseline of how many kids, we still get the late registrations, which we reconcile with the board afterwards. We don't know when our teams are going to be practicing, like when our volunteer coaches are available to practice, anything like that. So on the applications where we have to send it in, it is 4 to 7, Monday through Friday, and then 9 to 4, on Saturdays, and 9 to 4 on Sundays, because we don't know when the league's gonna schedule the games, and we don't know when our coach is gonna practice, but once we do, then everything gets tidied up.
It's not 9 to 4, it's 8 to 8.
Yeah, take that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
That's the way it's
but
like-
we understand that, but it's also like, it's kind of funny, when I first came on here, I was, all this information, I'm like, how do they do it? But then we've talked to other towns, and they've got it figured out, so I don't understand how Triton Youth's athletics so far hasn't been able to, make it work, no, I shouldn't say that. It's worked so far because you guys have an open slate. So if something happens at another town or whatever, it comes over here. But other towns have been doing it differently, and other organizations have made it work as far as filling in and making out. So I don't know.
You know, and I don't disagree in regards to the other towns at working for the hourly rate that you want, not the hourly rate, but the hourly methodology that you wanna use. I don't disagree with that. All I'm sensitive of is when you're looking at other towns for comparisons for costs all the way through, or increasing, you know, the cost for the maintenance of the field or whatever, to keep it reasonable, because it's the
Do you not think
families of,
$5 to $6
it's
is
the
reasonable?
families of Salisbury, Newbury, and Rowley, you know, that are going to be impacted.
We're very aware of that.
Yeah,
And we
we,
don't want that ripple effect, that's the
Right.
only
but
Thank
thing.
you for bringing that up.
since this started, for some reason, there was some kind of word out there that one, that we were trying to increase rates, which was never the point, and two, that we wanted to try to use sports off of the fields, which has never been the point, I think, since the very beginning.
No, that was
We
been-
have said,
we
we're gonna
value
do
our partnerships.
everything we can do to keep you guys here and keep your costs where they are. That's the
And-
last thing we wanna do.
No, and I agree in regards to you guys don't wanna kick the youth programs off. You're not gonna kick the youth programs off, it's just whether or not the youth programs, you know, need to move or adjust part of their program to balance out the expenses. I understand that.
So the idea
You
wasn't,
said
you keep saying
initially-
expenses.
So,
Okay.
you said initially, you know, $5 to $6, that's the break even point for lacrosse and, you know, for soccer or whatever. Okay, then it's, but we need to increase our fees, or, you know, we need to, not increase the fees, I'm not saying dramatically, but we need to increase it, because it hasn't been increased for 12 years. We need to maintain great fields, don't you like the fields that we're using? So it's like,
Do you want a straight answer is what you're
no,
trying to get to?
no, it just gets confusing, that's
No,
all.
the whole idea, if we had gone around to all the other towns and saw that our fee structure was right on spot with what everybody else, this would have been done a year ago.
We haven't spent a year and a half of our time in these meetings on this. I mean, we've been talking about this for an hour.
Yeah.
And willing to answer questions, go through it, and this is, we've had meetings that, I mean, typical meeting is usually, yeah, we have some that go like an hour 15 just because we're up against time schedules of other meetings after us, but we've gone meetings, we've been here almost 2.5 hours.
One other thing, let me just say one other thing. How many other towns and cities around here do you think lets one organization book an entire field for 12 hours from 8 AM to 8 PM? What other towns do you think let one organization do that? There isn't any. I'm gonna tell you right now, there isn't any. We've checked with all towns, and you know what? The reason they don't is because they say to their participants, they say to their field users, tell us when you're gonna use the field. If your league and you can't come up with a time so that you can schedule and utilize the fields, so if we go to an hourly rate, and when you pay an hourly rate, are you gonna book a field from 8 in the morning till 8 at night just so you can secure it in case your schedule changes, or in case you need additional practices? That's the problem. So the problem let me finish. The problem that we have is we have overbooking of fields with no accountability of using the fields when you book them. That doesn't allow other Newburyport groups to use it, or it doesn't allow other people to use it. There isn't a town out there or a city out there that allows one organization to book a field from 8 AM to 8 PM on any given day. Because there isn't a program out there that's gonna use the fields for 12 hours that day. So it has to be more reasonable on both parts. So if we go to an hourly rate, maybe all of you will sit down and say, we're not gonna book the field for 12 hours today. We can't spend that kind of money. So when do we really need the field? And it becomes more accountability on your part. It allows us to understand when the fields are used and not used, in case another group, Newbury or somewhere else, wants to come in and use an unused field, not a field where we're gonna tell somebody they have to get off because somebody else from out of town is gonna come in. But it allows us to have a better idea when the fields are available. In case somebody says, hey, can we get a field for 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon? So that's really what it's about.
No, go ahead.
So yeah, I think I think what you're saying makes total sense, and the plan that you guys put together, there's a ton of logic behind it, and it's gonna allow for more flex use. I think the big concern, like from a coach and a parent, is are my kids gonna be impacted by this from the perspective of are there gonna be interruptions? And so I think
What do you mean by interruptions?
interruptions during the schedule of the season by other teams coming in or other organizations coming in and wanting to use that field under a time that's been allocated or misplanned by an organization like the soccer or the lacrosse, or maybe the private group.
That's part of the accountability piece that we're trying to do.
Exactly.
That's
And it's
Spot
not,
on.
we're trying to take away.
Yep.
If the lacrosse soccer wants to, or a new group wanted to come in and wanted to rent the field for 12 hours, and they're gonna use it for 12 hours, that's their prerogative,
So I think prioritization and then clear
which
communication.
we've already set up.
Yeah, exactly. But then clear communication and a clear system of understanding how that's planned and is then processed to everyone is
It's already out.
absolutely,
We've already voted,
absolutely
it's already gone to the
critical.
Board of Selectmen, it's
Yeah.
already on our website.
Yeah, so critical, because what you're gonna have is then folks like that have been using this for 10 years and have been in a program for 10 years that have had that consistency and are used to that consistency, are having to go through a change. And that's where your pain is gonna happen, your pain is gonna ensue
But
when a problem
Again,
exists.
since the very beginning.
So how as an organization you deal with that and how like as a whole
I
community
think
it's
the
dealt with is
organizations,
absolutely critical.
I think the organizations need to refine their processes of how they schedule and how they schedule the volunteer coaches and all of that stuff. I think we're refining the way we book the fields. I think you guys need to refine the way you guys schedule.
I think it's a very complex undertaking that we have entered. And what I'm hearing a lot of is us, them, and not enough, how do we end up making this better? Because it is hard to coordinate coaches. They're volunteers, and they have to do anywhere from 10 to 20 hours of training just to be allowed on the field. There's a lot of time that goes into it. I don't have a simple answer to this, and I think sometimes we're trying to make it very simple. Here's all you need to do, and it's not that simple.
But I know you said it's
But we
not
gotta
that
make
simple.
decisions too at some point.
Yes.
I
Yes,
just
agreed,
want to address
agreed.
one thing that you said,
Agreed.
about interruptions. The only way that there's gonna be interruptions is if the organization, the league, or the team, doesn't understand and really schedule their events and their practices and their games in a way that they know that they're gonna be there and use those fields at that time. Because the interruptions aren't gonna come from us. What's gonna happen is if you guys, all of a sudden, you schedule something and no one shows up, or then someone shows up, or you have two teams show up at the same time because of scheduling issues. But if you've blocked off a time to use that field and rent that field, we're not gonna interrupt and put somebody else in there. The interruptions are gonna come from maybe a mistake in your scheduling, or two coaches scheduling the field at the same time, or something happening that way. It's not gonna be because we're gonna look at the schedule and say, gee, Triton Youth Lacrosse is there, oh, let's put somebody else there and, heck with them. It's gonna come because all of a sudden, because now you guys are trying to really tighten your schedules down, what's gonna happen is a coach who's used to having some flexibility is gonna say, oh, let's switch it to Tuesday, and some other coach has already got a book for Tuesday. That's where your interruptions are gonna come from. So the organization piece for you guys is gonna be a little bit more difficult, yes.
No, I think you're spot on. So like having that visibility into the system so that there are like possible last minute flexibility changes that need to happen for multiple organizations at the same time, like, that's crucial.
There's two things here. We don't have hockey where we have a Zamboni that just takes everybody off the ice, which would be great, because then you know when your time's done.
Or a horn.
Or a horn. The second thing is, we're trying to do this across a lot of programs. This has started from the ground level. Mark's was 100% right, because the complexity of all this, we've just got a field. Well, we've got so many other pieces. We're still trying to work on the field house and we meet more than other organizations. We're meeting only every other week. The Board of Selectmen meet that often. I mean, we're trying to do that just so we can catch up. And the biggest piece has been management. Well, we finally got that, we get the house done, the field house done. Now we're trying to get to something else, but we don't want to take light of the situation we have right now, but we also got to move on to get other things done, because we've been stuck in the mud for a year and a half on the fee.
And when is all this actually gonna take place? Not this spring?
No, in the fall.
Nothing's gonna change for you guys in the spring.
Yeah, we've always said we would get a season between.
You'll get a full season to maybe,
We want
so
to make
you
sure.
guys can start.
And we've also said we will work with the groups regarding the scheduling.
Right.
We understand that there's different pieces going in.
Scheduling too, where you can build.
But we're trying to build software systems so we can do scheduling,
Better
maybe even
website
two.
would be
But we don't have one, so we're starting from the ground up.
Right.
We have to research companies based on the different parameters of the town that we have to go through. So these are other things we have to do on top of it.
And then I just also wanna get out there that the town, I know I saw in an email that somebody said, I think it was you, Mr. DeRoches, that the town has an unlimited amount of money that it just spends whenever it wants. That's not true. The recreation committee, they don't appropriate money. Money is appropriated at the annual town meeting. They have a budget that they have to work in, like they just said that they want to get this online scheduling system and all that stuff. They have to work within that budget.
And we have to
And
get things
ultimately, we
approved
can
and-
get it going better. I mean, this is all to be improvement. And please, when you do this, if you find things that are wrong, that aren't working right, come to the committee and explain yourselves to them, and they'll work with you. It is never, I don't believe, this committee's intent, especially from when they wrote the policy, to slight any of the Triton youth programs.
No.
We
It
do
was a
value
priority.
That was a
partnership.
priority.
It has listed on there.
Other than the residents of Newbury, which that's where we are, that's why.
I appreciate all your work. I gotta go, but before I go, I wanted to, I'm happy to hear the field house is going to be online this summer. Do we know?
Will be
Fingers
available
crossed.
to be used.
Fingers crossed.
To be used.
Yeah, we're also trying to solicit to, this is another piece of the whole equation. We wanna have someone come and do concessions. Well, we can't do, we gotta figure out how we're gonna do that, and also abide by the town rules, and how do we do that? None of us are attorneys, so we're still trying to figure that piece out too,
Would
so.
it be, like centrally managed by you guys, or would it be by each organization?
Soccer.
And that's the question we're trying
We
to
were
figure out,
talking
because,
about
again, we don't have volunteers helping us out to do these things.
We sell,
So we're actually trying to work with the
yeah,
Council for Aging to see if they'd be interested, because of the different rules they have going on, where they could possibly earn some money off of their taxes and stuff. We're trying to do that, I
the
mean,
revenue generation would sell t-shirts, you know?
Mark, the policy has been submitted to the Board of Selectmen for their review and approval.
Okay.
That would outline the priorities given to different individuals or
great pulse
nonprofits.
we have put together.
It'll have working bathrooms?
Yep, they're already there.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're still gonna have the handicap porta potty outside, because they wanna make sure they have that in case something's closed, we have that as an extra, but
Okay.
everything's set aside.
I learned a lot, thank you.
So once we can get past this fee structure, which I think this is the last, I can't tell you that umpteenth time I've been to one of these meetings, they can move on from that to the field house. And then
Okay.
once the field house has been done, they can move on, but they're only 5-6 people, and they only have an hour
And just remember one thing,
to get it
what we
done.
decide still has to go to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen may say they don't wanna do it, and we have to go back.
Mhm.
But we're trying to at least move things forward by being conscious of our partners with the youth programs, with the town of Newbury, and everybody that's going around here. It's a lot of moving pieces. Mark was, again, what he said before, it's something's evolving, and it's just, there's so much complexity going on. The chicken and the egg scenario is just multiplying,
Yeah.
because we don't know, we have to do this, and every time we open a layer, all of a sudden, now we have to find field house policy. Now we have to redo the committee's policy. And then these are things we have to do, then we have to get them approved before they're in. So,
And one part of the policy might be, and we have to discuss this, that we actually, as a committee, block off a section of the fields on a Saturday morning, just so that they're available for the town,
Yeah.
or for a happenstance where there's a conflict or something.
Yeah,
like that.
so,
It's us managing the hours
blocks,
instead of the
yeah.
users managing the
Yeah.
hours. The users apply and then.
that goes back to, having it available, even if it comes down to it, to have, even if it's a small field, but to have something available for the town of Newbury, for residents of Newbury, which is, that's the number one situation, and then the other groups go out from there. And it's exhausting, because we make a lot of phone calls to people and try, and it gets frustrating at
I
times.
definitely don't wanna be in your guys' seat,
Well,
by no means,
We
but
hate each other, like, she gives me a dirty look all the time, I give her, it's horrible. Yeah.
it is a lot of things to
Right,
balance.
I think we're working on new ideas too, like we were talking about the hockey rink, we're talking about putting a rubber-based basketball court in over there, that's really a nice basketball court, outdoor court. We're talking about maybe even, someone mentioned about maybe doing a drive-in theater at Mantor Fields, on a night, like they do over, I live on Plum Island, so at the end of Plum Island, they have a big screen, they have a drive-in theater, people come out with lounge chairs and stuff, so just things where we can involve more people in the community and do more things,
They
so.
actually do that.
That's also on our agenda as well, is try to really kind of bring it so that the rec committee just doesn't, talk about, how can we bring families in? How can we do more family activities? How can we do more things and use what we have for facilities at the same time upgrading them and improving them?
Talked about movie nights and camp.
We were talking about that last week,
Yeah.
or 2 weeks ago when I was there. But Hampton Beach actually does that every, like.
But just to give you an idea, this is how important this has all been and how much we value everything. I'm gonna call the vote, because we have 10 minutes before we're supposed to be done. So I'm calling a vote on the fee scheduling to, I guess to kind of figure, because we're gonna have to discuss in a second, but I'm calling a vote to accept $6 and $15 as the fees, $6 for the Triton youth programs and $15 for outside organizations. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Do I hear any discussion?
Yes, 3 points. One, is that for year round?
That's
Yeah,
for
summer-
the seasons.
Summer? Does that include, at one point, the proposal was like $2,000 for a weekend?
Yes, that, I thought that was already agreed upon, but if it isn't, then I apologize. And yes, the fees we had set for the summer for special events, those were added. I'm just hitting these two right now.
Those are already.
Wait a second, I'm confused.
I thought we were only really talking about the two pieces, because the other ones were already decided on.
The other, to the best of my knowledge, and I may have missed a meeting where there was no agreement to large-scale usage of the.
But
Such as
Mark,
Blackfield
that's
Days.
not part of the motion right now. The motion on the floor right now is these two fees.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all that's on the motion
Okay.
right now. Nothing about
So-
weekends, nothing about special events, nothing, just
Those will be discussed as well.
these two fees.
Okay.
And not right now.
5 and 15 and not have to deal with, cancellation and backfilling.
So you're,
It's not, she's throwing a question.
I'm discussing.
okay.
Mark, do you have a comment?
Does that include, we have accepted responsibility for the bathrooms? What does that do with that?
Isn't that part of the field house policy, or referring to, you're talking about increasing the
Yes.
fees?
Okay, that's included in these fees?
Yes.
Okay.
David?
And
Or-
my last question is simply, based on these projections, what is the total revenue range in which we would, how much money would we be generating based on a good faith estimate? Because I feel uncomfortable voting on a fee if we don't know how much money that would.
Well, considering that I've been working off a number, and Jason corrected me, I thought there were based on the application that I got, it showed 75 people, and he's now telling me 163. If I plug that into
No,
the equation.
I just total hours, I don't care what it was per person. A total number of hours, a high range and a low range, what would we generate?
Between, in the fall, between the two programs,
Yeah.
at $15 an hour, 17, this is using 15 and 5, not 15 and 6. 15 and 5, we would have ranged between 17 and $21,000.
Could you break it down, please, so that, how much would Triton Youth Soccer play?
Triton Youth Soccer would be paying between $35,000 and $5,000, depending on the numbers.
But that's not the motion here, that was.
No,
that's right.
He's asking a question because he wants to be educated on the decision, and I'm fine with that.
And also, and I don't mean to correct you, but the discussion is about the fee of $6 and
She did not make a motion, she did not
Right.
amend the motion,
Right.
she's just
You
saying,
just,
so it's a question, let me know that if I said 6 and 15, she's probably voting no.
Right, so that's my point, is we'd have to vote on the 6 and 15, and then you make another motion of 5 and 15 or whatever.
So
So
let's
that's-
see, can
We
you
get-
give the
we-
numbers for 6 and 15?
Yes, I'm doing them both right now.
Okay.
If I did 6, it ranges between $45,000 and $6,000.
That's for Triton Youth Soccer,
That's the Triton Youth Soccer,
would pay between $4,500 and $6,000
at $6 an hour.
at $6 an hour for the anticipated number of hours that they would use this fall, in a fall season.
Based on, yeah,
It would be about 45,000.
that's per season, yeah.
About 45,000 to 6,000,
4,500.
4,500, I'm sorry, and
Excuse me, I
6,000.
must say that he did.
Which would be, what they're currently paying is about 3?
They're paying, what they paid is between, well, again,
The 100.
I had 2,600 when I had 75 people. if I recalculate that number in, it's substantially higher.
Right, so do the 161 or 164 was what he actually
Okay,
said.
and then how much was it for the $15 an hour?
You want to do the right number here?
Average for the last 3 seasons is 3,200.
Okay, so,
It would have been between 3 and 5,500, because if his 163 times 35 people is $5,700 is what they should have paid. I don't have the numbers now.
okay, and what is it, $15 an hour?
At
for-
$15 an hour, it is between 9 and 17, because their hours dramatically change.
This is for
The
club
outside
soccer.
group, yes.
So that, what we're saying is it about the same for the spring?
Yeah, because they're two, they had 69 hours, 70 hours in one season and 50 the next on the springs, and their falls were 140 and 80.
So let me get this straight, and I'm not good with math. If
Why?
on average, there's, a club program would be spending about $17,000 a season, and town soccer would be spending about, let's call it $10,000 a season, a year, I mean, that would be
For both seasons.
for both seasons. So it'd be 17, 17, and then 10, that would make it, $34,000, that, just for those two programs?
If you're looking at,
44,000, I'm sorry,
44 for those.
44,000.
Yes.
Okay, and then how much would lacrosse would be?
$4,000
$4,000
a year.
a year? Okay, so it'd be $44,000 that would be generated by that model, okay. And how much do they currently get from them? Total?
10.5 from GPS, $4,000 from soccer, and that's an average, and $4,000 from there, so it's about $19,000. Your numbers weren't, I was ranging because
Okay,
I was looking between falls and spring, which the numbers are completely different, so I was ranging from high end to low end, where if you want an average for the spring versus the average for the fall, I could do that too. The reason I'm saying this is I have it all sitting right here.
okay, what would that be?
All right, for GPS, or the outside program, they paid $10,500 every season.
Yep.
Their spring average was $11,233.
No, I'm not, okay.
$11,000.
What I'm asking is not the per player.
I'm not,
I'm asking the total number of hours that they average between the two seasons, so.
all right, so GPS averaged 60 hours in the spring,
Total?
average. One was 70, one was 50. I'm looking at the hours they signed up, and I had every field and thing documented. Oh, no, total hours per week, per season?
Per
I
season.
apologize.
Per
I was
season.
looking at the wrong one.
Yes.
All right. In the spring, it was 750 hours.
Okay. And in the fall?
The fall was just under 1,000, 980.
So, 850 maybe? Easy number?
What, for all
Yeah.
four of them?
For, club program?
For
So,
per season?
yeah,
On average, it's nice, it's 865, you're right there. That's per season,
okay.
not per year, so it'll be 17 and change per year.
So 17 per year at 15, they would be paying how much?
1,700. $25,500.
Okay, for the season, and how much would, soccer pay for the year?
Soccer has averaged, the last 2 years, 827 hours per season, so about, say 1,600 hours. 1,600 hours per year, times 5,
No,
and I'm doing both, give me a second. I don't know if that's a big deal. At 5, it's $8,000
For the season?
for the year,
Year annual, okay.
are 9,600 times 6.
That's 6, and what would,
Lacrosse,
be?
they're only one season, they're averaging 880 hours per year. $4,400 or $5,280.
So we're looking at 38, 39, about four, let's call it $4,000 if you kept the same amount of hours. $4,000 to be generated. And currently, how much do we get from them?
From which group? All of them?
Yeah,
In a year?
yeah.
21,000 from GPS, so theirs is going from 21 to 25. And on, what do you want, the 5 or the 6? Proposal is at 6, so.
6.
Soccer is, oops. Soccer is just under 11,000. Say 10,000, get easier. And 5,000 from lacrosse.
5,000. I'm confused, but.
So if I take the 21,000, if I take,
25, the 10 and the 5, we got $40,000.
and without it, it's 21, 8, 9,000 is 30, it's about 34 currently is what we're getting paid per year between the 3 programs. Compared to the 40 you said?
40.
And the biggest chunk of that, $4,000 of that difference is from GPS.
Okay.
And that's to say at current hour schedules. If you guys cut back, the number goes down. From a revenue standpoint, it gives us options to do other things with, or what's potential lost revenue. But that just gives us an idea where we stand. So I'm going back to the motion. Any other questions, David?
No.
David?
No.
So the motion as it stands right now is 6 and 15 on the hours. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
All right.
2-2. Am I allowed to vote in
You
that?
have to vote.
If I'm voting on 6 and 15. Passes. The other pieces will be taken care of. Again, this is what we'll propose to the Board of Selectmen. They will then come back and make a decision. They may say no, they may say yes, they may say go back and repencil this. We'll find out. Next thing on the agenda, we've got 7:30. Let's see if we can knock off, let's go till 7:45 and see if we can take care of it real quick because we still have the,
Are we voting on anything else?
Well, I was hoping to
I've sent the,
confirm the alternate disc,
Okay.
because we did vote on it.
yeah, let's do that one then.
Yes.
Those are the hours we had to put aside, weren't, or we
I
even
was-
dividing these up between both groups?
Well, I was hoping to get the April 28th, May 5th, I believe, and May 12th.
Those dates were agreed upon.
Um,
I just wanna make sure that the hours are evenly divided between both groups. I don't wanna have someone taking the heat for
From
one
10
side.
to 12?
From 10 to 12, and I wanted to, yes, I want to see if that's manageable. I don't want to take it if we don't use them all, because I hate to be hypocritical. If we end up saying all this, and then they turn around and say, well, you didn't use all the fields.
I'll let you, are we confirmed with them?
I'm confirming, Jim, does lacrosse have any issues with?
I won't know till the end of, we're switched to a Sunday from Saturdays.
Yeah.
That's our game day, I won't know until the end of March what our game
But
schedule is.
we plan on having, because I think we might be able to get away with one field if we can make that happen. I will juggle, otherwise I'll just take both fields and.
Well, we've put in the request for our games not to stop till 12:30 on that field.
Yeah.
I don't know, I
Okay.
don't know what happens.
Can I do this? Let's approve this, and I will work with both you and GPS and figure out how to make this work.
Yeah.
That if I
As long as,
figure
as
out-
long as it's even, I wanna make sure that
or
no one's
we-
taking the burden of this.
No such thing as even, when there's three.
A proportional.
If we can figure out, if everybody's okay with it, we'll figure something out,
Yeah.
we'll make it work. Thank you, Jim. Jason, are you okay with that? We'll work out how to reserve the appropriate number of fields. If I have to go down to one to make it all work, those three groups will figure this out.
The field house policy has already been submitted to the board. Mariah did that earlier today. The spending plan, we have got to address as number one topic starting the next meeting. And the other one is the basketball court proposal, which I sent out to everybody.
When is,
It's a PowerPoint 3-slide thing. The meeting is the 23rd.
Of
We're
April?
meeting the last thing I want to go over real quick, since you have to leave, is
yeah,
April 23rd is the town meeting.
We have an annual town meeting.
Yes.
Yep.
I would like to have our next meeting on the 11th. It is an open night on the calendar for the town. Mariah has already approved she can make it. Does anybody else have a problem with that night?
when is it, April 11th?
April 11th is a Thursday, 6 to 7:30.
I have no life, so I'm sure it's fine.
Okay. So that'll be our next meeting. The software NRC meeting, ultimate, we're all set there. I can take that off the list. You'll confirm that, Mark. Did you move North Shore? Mark, you had 5 things you wanted to talk about in the new business, but we're gonna hit, if you could, breeze through them. You had keys fiscal analysis, which we're gonna have to talk about with a spending plan after that. The volunteer appreciation day, what is that about?
Okay. Number one, anticipating that the field house will be open the fields will be open April 1st, is the field house gonna be open?
Can we open it without having the field house policy in place?
No,
That's why that's in there, and that's,
So soon, when is that gonna be voted on?
I haven't seen the agenda for our next meeting.
Okay.
okay.
They have.
So for you guys, soon as you
wait.
approve it, we can open it. We just have to get them to okay it.
Volunteer Appreciation Day was sent out back in January. It was part of the bubble ball. I sent everybody a concept paper, almost a white paper if you will, about a way to recognize the volunteers that participate here, not only in town government, but in general, whether it's coaches, whether it's 4-H leaders, whether it's working with the environment. Dave acknowledged that without volunteers, a lot of things wouldn't be happening. And I sent the paper out saying that you could spend any amount of money, and it's just acknowledging that, give a little award to somebody. Can we continue this conversation, or?
What were you thinking, one day this?
One day, someday this summer, where we, probably on weekend, I know in another town,
I think Damon has brought that up.
what I've done in another town is the town manager, the chief of police, people who most citizens do not meet, would be there serving them, literally and figuratively. We could have the fire department do their famous chicken dinner, we could have outside vendors, there's a lot of options. It could be a combination of parts of the old Bible days. Again, there was a paper that I sent out, I don't know if people read it or not, that we could make it that elaborate, or it can just simply, we buy a plaque and we say, here, so-and-so, here you go, nice job.
I
A way
did
to acknowledge.
read it, but it was way back. Do you mind me sending it?
Sure.
And I don't know that David was on the committee then.
Okay.
Copy me too, please.
Just put it to the committee.
Yeah, for some reason, I seem to miss emails for some reason. Maybe they're kicking me off, I don't know.
No.
Oh,
That's
really?
I can't answer that question right there.
You're right,
No.
don't forget to copy me.
I have it right there. So the keys to the bathroom opening, the list of supplies, yes, we have to wait for that, but it's gonna take James, and we have to figure out how we're gonna open this up, how we're gonna, get the supplies. Parker could use a cleat cleaner, which we need to supply, maybe some masks coming in there, all that stuff. James is willing to get it for us, we just have to make up the list.
Oh, good.
And then the fiscal analysis was based on the numbers that we provide what we expect to generate. And what happens if it drops down, if somebody leaves?
I think if someone leaves, like we talked about before, there's a contingency. So let's say that, you know, these are the numbers, but then all of a sudden they figure out that they can do it for half the amount of time, and their costs go down by half, then we fill in that difference.
I understand that, Dave. I'm saying there's a finite number of programs out there. And I would like us to do an analysis so that when we present this to the Board of Selectmen, that we've done our due diligence and we've taken a hard look at all that's out there to present our case.
How do you do an analysis without actually going through that process?
I'll give you an example. How many town teams are there in Newbury?
Currently,
How many town teams can replace Newbury lacrosse if they left?
We don't know that.
Okay.
It's
We
Triton.
do.
It's
No,
Triton.
No, we don't. No, we don't, because if there was a field available, there might, all of a sudden, a new program might come up. Like the gentleman that was here, he's not from Newbury, but the gentleman that was here from the North Shore Sports Program.
Yeah.
There are other programs out there, I'm sure there are coaches out there that would be, if there was fields available, might say, you know what? I'm gonna start a lower level youth program. I'm gonna start a tot program where we're gonna start teaching.
Conditioning programs.
I'm gonna start conditioning programs. I'm gonna start.
I talked to
Wait a
recreation
minute,
committee members, and they said the same.
the elderly, the committee for the elderly might start to say, we're gonna do an outdoor program, an outdoor walk program for our elderly, where they're gonna bus people over and let them walk and maybe have a little picnic or cookies or something.
it just hasn't been an
If you
opportunity.
if you don't send out the message that there's now fields available, you don't know what could come. You don't know what could come. So to try and do an analysis, all that is basically an assumption. But unless you go through it and live through it for a while and say, this is gonna be a trial period, a year,
I'm not disagreeing.
then but that's what I'm trying to say. So we'd have to go through it and see what the growing pains are and what the pains are, and
And
then,
that's what you need to tell the Board of Selectmen.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's something, I mean, we've already approached Tracy and said, if we lose somebody, it could be a hit.
And
She
she knows that.
understands that.
And she understood that, and that's why we kinda looked at it.
Right.
David's right in regards to, we don't know until we get there, but Mark's also right. It is something we have to look at, we've gotta
Right.
find
Oh,
out what we're putting ourselves together.
There's an old saying out there.
Where's the line?
There's an old saying out there in athletics, you build it, they'll come.
Mhm.
So if you create something that is like the basketball courts, we're saying, we don't know who's gonna come to those or who's gonna wanna use them, but it's been known in athletics, if you create a facility, and now that you have a concession stand, and you have a building there that people can use, and people can come in and make money and create their own revenue, then you're gonna see that there more people will come if it's available. But you have to let them know it's available.
Yeah, and I've heard from other, like I said, from other rec committee members saying that they get phone calls, but they don't have the space. Danvers said that, they get phone calls all the time to
Right.
use their fields, but they don't have space. So that, I know that there is
Opportunity.
opportunities out there. And you know, like it says, maybe it comes down to if we lose GPS, then we get another, there may be, you know, 10 groups behind GPS and say, wow, that's a pretty decent number. Let's, you know,
It's a
find.
fabulous field, and I think you just need to have faith.
It's just, we have to be prepared for both scenarios.
Well, that's all I'm asking, is that we have thought this through, that we look at it and understand the ramifications, and I'm not saying I'm against it. It's just, my background is, you do a thorough analysis, you take a look, you're right, we don't know.
Right.
You know, we could have somebody rip through the fence this summer, this spring, tear up all the fields, and they're useless, and nobody gets to use it. We don't know. But as long as we take due diligence, and we look at it, and we say, okay, and I'll use soccer as an example, just a second, Jason. No, we don't know, but part of our job is to know. How many club soccer programs are there? And where are there? Where are they? Okay.
Celine went and talked to GPS South, and they said, we pay whatever.
That's not my issue.
But you're saying we don't do due diligence, we did. We looked at all these, we took the whole
Yeah, but-
picture,
That's-
and we went and we got
that-
prices from other communities, what they charge.
David,
We
that's
are-
not my
But
question.
that's not the question.
My question is, who would replace them?
But see,
But
But we don't know what it
we
is.
don't know
Okay,
what
can I just finish, please?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
But you repeated the same thing, David and Mark, 3 times. We understand that.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, we need to show that we've done the due diligence, because we haven't. We don't know, I can say.
You don't think, you honestly don't think we've done our due diligence, regardless of the whole process.
No,
Hours.
I didn't say.
You just
what-
did, on camera.
Okay. What I'm saying, Mike, is that, have we looked at all the soccer programs in the area?
No,
Okay, why did Mass Youth Soccer buy fields out in, I don't wanna say Chelmsford?
because we don't have anything available.
Okay, now why did they, as an organization, buy fields to ship kids out from Newton, Needham, and all these places to play soccer?
Because it's a
Because
money.
It's a money-making thing for them.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't have
But
to worry
not only
about it.
that, Mark, you're assuming you're gonna replace soccer with soccer.
Okay,
Why do you have to do that?
then who else is there?
Well, we
Rugby,
gotta find out.
but this is what I'm saying. The rugby programs around here, there's one rugby program.
But I
There-
think you want us to look in a crystal ball, and I don't think there is one.
No, I'm not asking you to look at a crystal ball. Have we looked at what else is out there?
I'm sorry I don't understand what you're saying, and I'm sorry I'm
Okay.
frustrated.
We're both sick.
I know.
What I'm saying and suggesting is there's a good faith effort. You know, we say build it and they come. Maybe.
I think
Maybe.
that, but honestly, with all due respect, I think this committee has gone beyond them
Okay.
doing its due
Okay.
diligence. They've called, they know where they've called other rec committees, they've called other towns, they've seen what Newbury has, they compare it with other things, and can we, I mean, it would be great if for everything in life, if you could wave a magic wand and just pull out a puzzle piece and put another piece back in, and have nothing happen, but is this gonna be uncomfortable and itchy? Absolutely. It's
Agreed.
gonna be uncomfortable and itchy for these guys too. But I think over time, I think it will work itself out, and if it doesn't, we come back and we talk about it.
Okay.
Plan B.
Yeah, I think, Mark, I think if we enter the first year and say, or even the first 2 years and say that, you know, this is a trial, this is our analysis, this is what we're doing, this is how we're really gonna look at this, and, you know, we're gonna come back to the table in 2 years and say, okay, did this work out to the benefit of Newbury and to all of the participants? Or do we need to go back and look at how we can change things and go back? Because that's a true analysis. Everything else is we're just making assumptions.
Agreed.
So,
We-
so by knowing how many soccer programs there are out there and how many teams there are available right now is an irrelevant factor when you really don't know what else is out there. There might be a youth rugby team that would like to get started. There might be other programs that would like to get started that are looking
World
elsewhere.
lacrosse programs.
And if there's a field available, you know, I remember when I was a Triton athletic director, there'd be times when that back field would be flooded, and we were trying to do girls lacrosse, and that was their practice field down there, and we'd try to get onto Manton, and we couldn't get on there. So there are other things that could take place. You might find that they might say, you know what, dump that field back down there, and Triton will even pay to use this field, or something like that. So if it's available, there's more of a chance that other people and other things and other organizations will hear, gee, they got some availability over there at Mantor Field, so you might wanna contact them.
Okay, Jason?
One quick thing, not necessarily a discussion, per se, but I want to.
I'm wrapping this up.
Yeah, before you close, if it was voted on with the hourly and the rates all the way through,
Mm-hmm.
you have lacrosse, you have Trenton Youth Soccer, can we work with you guys, or we're here to work with you guys on the timing of when the application
The
and
only way
the
this works
hours?
is if we don't work together. We
What?
have to work together.
No, I know that, no, I'm just saying, because I know the timing of when we close registrations, form our teams.
And it's different
Reach out
on
to
the
the-
fall and
reach
the
out-
spring too, so we have to all look at these schedules and see what works. Yes,
Correct,
we wanna
correct.
do that with you.
What I'm proposing is, we can look at spring right now, which will set you in mind for next spring.
Okay, so,
So then we could go through, because right now, we're still getting people added, but I know how many teams we have, so that will let me know.
you
how
should
many-
also have, if you could do this
So,
at our
I can,
April 11th meeting and have the last couple of years and get an idea. I know things are gonna change, nothing is written in stone, but it gives us an estimate to go out off of, and then we can start looking at dates. Come with recommendations on the dates that you feel comfortable with. If you could pass the information on to Stefano, I'd love it. If not, let us know, we'll email them. Jim, same thing to you, if you can give us an idea of what works for you. The spring is one thing, that we have to combine the two sports. But the fall, you're pretty much ballpark same idea, because it's just soccer. We can work around that, so.
And maybe we have to look at application deadlines too.
That's the thing.
And maybe give you guys a little more time to really confirm your applications and
But
applications.
the problem is, we get too, there, from basic conversation before, it
Right.
gets too close to the cut time, so we may have to say, book a little extra,
And then
but we'll work with
backwards,
you
and
on
then
the
work
money,
backwards.
so it doesn't look like you guys have to come up all this up front, and then we have to go back. It's like, as I said earlier in the meeting, put up half, we'll see what we got, and then if you don't have the people for it, cut it back, and then we'll just, it will either tell you what the balance is, or if we had to, cut you back the difference.
Because I think it's gonna be an adjustment and analysis year for you guys as well, too. There's gonna take probably a year
course it
or
is.
2 years for you guys to really kind of work with us to kind of narrow it down, too. So it's not gonna be I don't think it's gonna be a quick transition where it's just gonna all of a sudden turn the switch on and things are gonna change.
Is
It's
that
gonna take time to really work through some things.
what you said,
And
just said? I'm sorry, Jason, go ahead.
no, Mike, I have, the applications that we submitted since spring of 16 to now.
I'll take a look at those, because I got mine from the town clerk's office.
Well, this, again, it specifies, here's the season, here's the number of teams. This is the key, basically on the outliers.
I'm just, all I'm looking at is this and this. I don't see, and then I see what's
Yeah,
there.
but this is the outlier, so we usually do the 10s and the
But
14s all
Believe me,
the
it's gonna
time,
come back
except
up,
for
because
two
it just
seasons,
does, like, we get it all
which is
set, and
why-
the next thing you know, it
and
bubbles
that's
up, I'm
because
like,
I
where are
know.
the?
Yeah.
So if you
I
add
just want to have a
this,
picture of this, and I'll
no,
just
you
back
can
to
keep it.
Okay, then I will, I'll update my spreadsheets for the next meeting, but at least we know where we stand at this
Yeah,
point.
no, it's just the outlier of
Yeah.
U12, because we moved it from Pine Grove. It's inflating our average cost.
Okay. Anything else? Do I hear a motion to adjourn, since it's 5 minutes?
Oh, is it
everybody's
Mark?
ready to do
I
it?
think Mark had
Next.
No, we can go on.
We could, but.
I can't, the problem is if one of us leaves, and the next, whatever, then the meeting has to be adjourned anyway, because we don't have quorum. So I've gotta be home, because I still have things I gotta be ready to move for. So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion.
Any discussion? All's in favor?